77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Stephen, good evening. Thanks for the time.
Thank you, Brett.
You know, the president said this is a big deal. You have said that this is a really big deal as far as the implication on some of these injunctions around the country.
It's monumental, Brett. This 6-3 ruling restores American democracy. So President Trump, over the last 5 months, had more nationwide injunctions issued against him than were issued in the 100 years of the 20th century. Most of these nationwide injunctions have come from a small handful of very hard left district court judges in just 4 or 5 cities like Los Angeles, Boston, San Francisco, Chicago. No one in America consented to be ruled by a district court judge in Chicago or Manhattan or Los Angeles or San Francisco. They elected one American president to run the executive branch. Today, the Supreme Court has said President Trump is the one in charge of the executive branch. The Department of Defense, Department of Justice, Department of Homeland Security. That is how our democracy works. Every 4 years, we go to the polls and we elect a president. We do not elect a Marxist judge in a far-left city to rule over us. And that's what the Supreme Court said today, Brett.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. That's exactly what was said, my friends. Welcome. It is the Saturday Morning Vibe. I am James Golden, Bo Snerdley. 800-848-9222 is the number to call us today. I would like to also, look, I don't expect that we're going to get a lot of this, just so you know. But I want to make sure to leave the invitation open. If you disagree with the momentous changes or actually return to sanity that took place this week from the Supreme Court, be it the decision on birthright citizenship, although it's really the merits of that case weren't what was at stake here. That's coming later. If you disagree with the Supreme Court ruling to stop this avalanche of lawsuits coming or legal cases brought by judges, because that's what this was. The judges inserted themselves into the executive branch. They had no business doing it. Supreme Court finally put a stop to it. If you happen to disagree with that, you think it's a terrible thing, or you have some other opinion about it, I welcome your calls. We will respectfully listen, even if we disagree, and let you have your say about it, or anything else that you want to disagree with. So it's kind of an invitation to the American left. If you think that this is just horrible, call us. Give us a call. We can discuss it civilly. Or anything else on your mind at 800-848-9222. What is going to happen on today's program? Well, later on in the program, Princess Diana will be with us. And I cannot wait to discuss. This has been an incredible week, my friends. It is not just the Supreme Court. There has been an earth-shattering primary election in New York. You have a socialist in New York, Zoran Mandani, who, by the way, has publicly said, it's on his website, his position is that he wants to hike property taxes for richer and whiter neighborhoods. One of the things. This guy also has a huge axe to grind with Israel. He has, by the way, this guy's, I was talking with someone the other day who doesn't approve of his candidacy, doesn't want to see him as mayor. He said, but you got to admit the guy's well-educated, speaks 3-4 languages. he's just a socialist. And so, no. But he is quickly becoming the new face of the Democrat Party, and there is a chance that he can become New York City's next mayor. Guy who wasn't even a citizen of the United States as recently as 7-8 years ago, now could take control as mayor of one of the biggest cities in America. There are a lot of stories circulating about his past, about associations that he has made, and they deserve to be looked into. That's up for grabs, too. One of the court rulings yesterday reined in the out-of-control liberalism in Montgomery County, Maryland, which might as well be in California in terms of their allegiance to far leftist ideology. We have reaction to that from Representative Jerry Raskin coming up and others. It's all about the forced indoctrination of school children into the LGBT curriculum that was put in place in Maryland. I must tell you that I had to weigh whether I'm going to play a particular piece of audio that I've had. You may have heard audio like this before. It comes from a Deerfield Public School District 109 in Illinois. They are intent on defying the executive order that President Trump issued regarding gender, and this one centers around biological bathrooms and also what the children in that school district have been reading or what is placed before them to read. I heard there's a citizen who just went to the school board meeting to actually, as many have done before, read from some of the books that now are put before American children. I was so blown away in a not good way by this. I sent it in to the guys and said, we got to play this. But I'm queasy about it because it is not only irreligious, it is not only upsetting to people of faith, and you will hear why, but I'm going to give a warning before we play it. But some of the things that children are now being subjected to in schools, this is not a fringe issue. And so what the Supreme Court did yesterday by allowing parents to opt their children out of some of this extreme ideology is a good thing. But again, I will warn you ahead of time before we play it because it is upsetting. America's Small Caffeinated Bar. Marana Schrock will join us a little bit later in the program. Lizzie has the week off. I think Lizzie is attending a social function this week. I believe that's yes. So it'll be us, your phone calls, and we have plenty to discuss. I was reading by the way, if you also, this open invitation to the left, there are so many stories in the mainstream press about conditions and what's going on inside California in particular, with the apprehension of non-citizens, people who have either violated the terms of their entering the country legally and thus have become illegal, or people who came here illegally without ever bothering to follow the law and are now being removed. There are articles concerning their treatment in these immigration detention centers. This has been, as you know, a cause that congressional Democrats have tried to turn into a national issue. You have the Congresswoman out of New Jersey who went too far with her opposition and confronting ICE agents and now finds herself in a court battle because she has been charged for her manhandling of. I have already a request that I should not play that particular soundbite. Don't do it. I'm not playing it. I'm going to play it. And I'm not doing it for shock value. I'm not trying to look at cheap. You need to hear what these people have in front of your children. It is disturbing. That's why I will give a warning. So that you can turn it down. Don't go away. Just turn it down. The whole thing lasts 3 minutes and 11 seconds. It is 3 minutes and 11 seconds of disturbing content. Not all of it, because this guy is calling these school board members out, and they just sit there blandly looking at him as he's reciting what they have allowed into the schools. But this is not just in Illinois. This is in schools all over the country where Democrats and liberals have insisted that children be groomed into this ideology. And I know the word groom is a word that many people on the left find offensive. And I don't say it to be offensive. But when you demand that children are exposed to certain things, I don't know how you can characterize that as anything else. Well, sure, you could say they're being educated, but this is not education. Anyway, we have to take a quick break. James Golden, Snerdley, it is a Saturday morning vibe. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Carlos, this sounds so familiar.
Straight out of jail records.
It's from the Straight Out of Jail record label. You know why? Because tomorrow's the anniversary of R. Kelly going from huge pop star to convict. Sentenced to 30 years in prison for using his celebrity status to sexually abuse children and women. Still in the pokey. Where he doesn't believe he can fly anymore, he believes he can bend. James Golden, Snerdley, Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222. Looking forward to speaking with you, looking forward to seeing what's on your mind today as we begin our Saturday Morning Vibe.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Sound the alarm. Florida is building a migrant detention camp in the Everglades, and they're literally calling it Alligator Alcatraz. DeSantis is turning a remote abandoned airstrip 70 miles west of Miami into a prison surrounded by alligators, snakes, and swamp. The goal, detain up to 5,000 people in FEMA trailers and military tents using federal disaster funds to pay for it. That's right. They're using emergency relief money to build a jungle prison. And DHS Secretary Kristi Noem just bragged about it on national TV.
Yeah.
Florida's AG even said they picked the site because you don't need a fence when you've got pythons and gators.
Boom.
That's the plan. Let the Everglades do the torturing. Environmental groups are outraged. The Miccosukee tribe says it's a violation of sacred land, but the project's already underway. Construction trucks are rolling in now, and tents are going up. They want it operational next week. This isn't a prison, it's a warning. And if we let it happen here, they'll try it everywhere. I'll be breaking this story down more on my Patreon and Substack.
Whatever. Yeah. Some people, they're outraged, but it's still opening. It's a beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen. It's a place of rest and retreat for weary illegal immigrants before they have to take that long flight home. It's a place where they can relax and commune with nature. No fences keeping them in. Nothing that says jail, because they don't have to. If they wander into the swamps, yes, my friends, they can commune with the alligators, with the pythons, with the mosquitoes, the gnats. Now, the place is comfortable. I've seen pictures of it. Air-conditioned, nice enclosures, great food. A place of loveliness and beauty inside the wonderful state of Florida. A place, again, where weary people that have broken American law can have a time of reflection, moments of contemplation as they prepare for their next adventure back home, or in some cases in third-party countries that have agreed to take them. It is wonderful. It is called Alligator Alley. Now, the woman was right about two things. Environmentalists have already filed 2 lawsuits to try to keep it from opening, but it appears it is still on track to open next week. Thousands upon thousands of illegal immigrants will find a place. Not quite Disneyland, but maybe the next best thing. Romeo and Juliet, by the way, today's the anniversary. This song was number 1. Romeo and Juliet by Henry Mancini started a 2-week run at number 1 on this day in 1969. Beautiful. James Golden, Snerdley with you here, 800-848-9222. Do we have those cuts? Okay, Carlos, before we get to them, I'm going to hold the other one till after the next break. But I want to briefly go into, I don't know yet whether Princess Diana and I are going to be talking. I assume we will spend a lot of time talking about the ruling with the district judges, which is just huge. Trump had an amazing week. But this other ruling is equally important, folks. The Montgomery County School District originally had provided an opt-out for families to their LGBTQ curriculum. But to show you how vindictive these leftists are, as soon as parents started to opt out for it for religious purposes, the liberals in Maryland were offended. And they said, no, you cannot claim a religious exemption. We are going to force your kid, your child, to sit through this indoctrination. The parents never said, stop the courses shouldn't exist. All they said was, we want to have the right, exercise our right to say that we come from a religious background, our kids shouldn't be subjected to this. And the vindictive nature of Montgomery County liberals is what caused the case. We'll be back. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
If you voted for that orange man and you are now saying, this is not what I voted for, this is not what I voted for, this is quite literally exactly what you voted for. And if you truly did not think that this was going to happen by electing that man into office, then you are willingly uneducated and ignorant. And I suggest next time you think about voting in an election, you educate yourself other than watching Fox News. Yeah.
Right. I don't know too many people that are unhappy that voted for the president of the United States. Of course, the left that didn't vote for him, those are the ones that are griping the most. Tomorrow's the anniversary of Beyonce starting a 5-week run at #1 on the UK album charts. This, of course, from the album Dangerously in Love. It is still Beyonce's best-selling album. James Golden, Snerdley with you this Saturday Morning Vibe. Okay, so the Supreme Court ruled and sided with the parents who wanted to opt their children out from reading LGBTQ books in school. In school. And again, Montgomery County, leftist, far leftist, radical leftist county in the state of Maryland, had originally, when they introduced all these LGBTQ materials, provided an opt-out for families. You can opt out of this if you want to. Once several parents decided that they wanted to opt out, but they cited religious reasons, the vindictive leftists down in Maryland said, okay, no more opt-outs. No more opt-outs. We're going to force your child to read this stuff. We don't care about your religion. We don't care about your your faith background. We don't care. Screw you. We're going to force you and force your kids to endure this. It's for their own good, was the message that these arrogant leftists in Montgomery County put out. Case, of course, went to the Supreme Court. Now, interestingly enough, the ruling stemmed from a case of a Muslim, a Roman Catholic, and a Ukrainian Orthodox. These were the parents involved. From one was a Muslim, the other a Roman Catholic, the other a Ukrainian Orthodox. They finally sued Maryland for the incorporation of these LGBT characters in a curriculum, which they had no choice but to enroll their kids in. They could not opt out. The Supreme Court of the United States yesterday ruled in favor of these parents. Leftists, of course, are unhappy. Representative Jamie Raskin had this to say about the SCOTUS ruling on Montgomery County schools.
You know, as the dissenting opinions point out here, the implications of this decision are just breathtaking because, of course, if you have a religious free exercise right to opt out of a compulsory exercise, for example, what the Supreme Court said in West Virginia versus Barnett, it applies not just to an exercise of religious conscience, but a conscience generally. If there are, Jehovah's Witness kids who don't want to participate in the compulsory flag salute, it also applies to kids who are internationalists or pacifists or what have you. And it's the same thing here. If you can opt out of mandatory classroom readings, because it offends your religious objections, you can do it because it offends your philosophical, beliefs, your political beliefs, your moral beliefs, or what have you. And the court basically says, well, we'll deal with all of that down the road. There's going to be a lot more cases where people are saying, our family doesn't believe in evolution, so we don't want our kid to be in class when evolution is taught. It offends our religion. Our family doesn't believe in war, so we don't want to be we don't want our kids in class when World War II is being taught about. And so the courts are going to have to figure that out. And so, again, they're trying to flatter a particular political group, a MAGA group here. And I think it's going to cause chaos going forward in terms of trying to figure out what it means to have a public education system.
Well, you can imagine just the remarkable possibility of books schools rather just taking books off the shelves of their libraries. Just very quickly.
Yeah, we can imagine some books being taken off the shelves. Now, let me just deal with that for a moment. This guy, Raskin, claims, and if you listen to him, your religious freedom is no different than anything else. It can be, then somebody has a philosophical difference and they'll opt the kids out. So it's treated at religion to Jamie Raskin, Democrat, Maryland, as being treated as some frivolous notion. It's frivolous. And what he ignores, and what the Democrat Party and what these leftists in Maryland ignored, that religious beliefs are not frivolous. Religious freedoms are the foundation of this country. This country, America, was founded to allow people to have, first and foremost, religious freedom, which is why it is in the very First Amendment, together with the constitutional mandate that no law, Congress doesn't have the right, and neither, by implication, do state, local, municipal officials have the right to impede on people practicing their religion in this country. It is a constitutionally guaranteed freedom. It is a right in this country to express and have control over how you practice your religion. These liberals don't like it because it interferes with their heinous view that anything that they want should go. Period. No matter what it is. And that brings me to this other bite. Because this ruling not only affects what is taking place in Maryland, but it also affects what has been going on around the country. There have been countless of parents getting up in front of these school boards demanding that somebody take this pornography out of schools. Now, I had a debate with a friend of mine, happens to be a liberal, and as soon as I mentioned this issue, she says, that's you MAGA people. That's you MAGA people. You're always complaining. Have you ever heard what is in these books? And the bottom line was, no, she hadn't heard what's in these books because they're not going to play what I'm about to play for you on the evening news because it's too disturbing for a lot of people. And people don't know what children are being forced to deal with inside schools. So let me give you a warning. For the next 3 minutes and 11 seconds when we start, if you think you could be offended, I will warn you, this stuff is graphic. It is more graphic than anything I've ever played on this program, and I'm not doing it for shock value. This was at a public meeting that was held in Illinois, in Deerfield Public School District 109 in Illinois. This is what one of the parents of one of the kids had to say as he explained what his and other children are being confronted with in their school. I warn you again, and I really debated whether I should do this or not, but I'm weighing on the side of people need to actually hear what these liberals are putting forth before American children. It is disturbing. And this is an excerpt of what took place at that meeting, Deerfield Public Schools, District 109 in Illinois.
All right, so your district is infamous because you all are Finding creative ways to push perversion upon children. You have several issues going on at Shepherd Middle School. Number one, you have a book entitled Queer, the LGBTQ Guide for Teens in that school district. The book reads, genital stimulation can come from any body part. You can use your hands or your hips or your feet, or you can rub your private parts on someone's thighs, arm, butt, genitals, ankles, wherever. You may stroke his insert fingers into his or insert fingers into her. If you're inserting fingers into somewhere, you may want to consider using a rubber glove to help prevent the spread of disease like syphilis, which is on the rise amongst gay men. So here's some advice for Pride Month. Don't put your fingers in someone's, all right? You also have a book entitled What Girls Are Made Of at Shepherd Middle School. It reads, eat him and drink him and do with him what I will. She was talking about worshiping Jesus. But come on, she was talking about sex, right? Sex with Jesus. That was what she wanted, to give Jesus, and I totally understand it. So this book endorses giving oral sex and sucking the of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. You should be ashamed of yourselves for allowing this kind of and filth to be in the school district, and we will make sure that this nation sees you willful cowards who support this kind of mess. And number three, the issue of the bathrooms. Look at the men who are on this board and the superintendent. How can you all claim to be men, providers and protectors and priests of your homes, and you allow a boy with a not with a men don't have let me get that clear. Men don't have nor do they have breasts. Then they can have man, but they don't have breasts. And men don't lactate. And men should not have the right to go into the women's restroom and defraud women of their privacy. I know we have some feminists on this board, ones that don't even want to look at me. What about the feminists in here? Don't you want to protect women? A woman's right to choose, a woman's right to do this and do that, a woman's right to have her voice. What about protecting the little girls who now have to go to school and contend with someone pushing sexual harassment upon them? That's what you're doing. But when men become neutered in our culture, they lose their voice. And this issue should not persist with the number of men who are on this board. I say to every man that's on this board, if you're not speaking up loudly about this, you are complicit. You are a punk, you are a coward, and you are the reason why this is taking place. And God forbid, because the DOJ and the DOE is coming, sir, and you better be prepared. Thank you.
Thank you.
And they just sat there with blank looks on their face. The blasphemy, it is so offensive. And you can see the under motive of what these people are doing is that they have an issue with religion. You see it in Maryland. As soon as parents cited religious belief as the reason to opt out of this curriculum, these liberals there went into a rampage. How can someone let in a book in Illinois with children, for children, with the sexual themes intermingled with Christian faith that way, in a way that they know is going to be offensive? How can they do it? Because they're trying to send a message to you. We don't care about your religion. In fact, we hate your religion, and we hate you. And we are going to force your children to become more like us and our way of thinking, and not a damn thing you can do about it. Well, it is important that the Supreme Court finally has at least put in place and cemented that liberals, American liberals, cannot force you and force your child to be subjected to the perversions, cannot be subjected, and I mean perversions, I'm not talking about heterosexual, homosexuals. I'm talking about the very idea that they should be introducing any of these sexual concepts into the school. Pornography, pornographic readings. That's the perversion I'm talking about. I don't care whether it's straight or not straight. None of it should be in there. This is not something that the school should be mandated to do. This is not something that children should be mandated to be taught by people whose intent is not even questionable. It is downright dangerous. I don't know when the switch got flipped that made it permissible for these adults to come in and try to sexualize children in these ways. But hopefully, this Supreme Court ruling yesterday will begin to restore some kind of sanity into what the education system has. These kids in America, we have so bastardized education that Americans' test scores have done nothing but spiral downward for decades now. We used to have the finest education in the world. Now, we're not even in that top tier group anymore as Americans. But meanwhile, they're pushing pornography on your children. They can't read, write, or act proficiently in terms of their learning abilities in many areas, but they can learn pornography. Something is terribly wrong here, folks. And the Supreme Court at least addressed this aspect of it. James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Take it to the limit. Yeah, that's what they've done. 1975, the Eagles are at number 1. On the U.S. album chart. Their 4th studio album. On that album, One of These Nights, Lion Eyes, which won a Grammy, and the title track of the album, Take It to the Limit. James Golden, Snerdley, 800-848-9222. Coming back. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Since the election is over, if you voted for Trump, that does not mean we can't be friends. We're both adults. We can be cordial and mature in your f***ing dreams, bitch. I hope you despair. I hope the devil takes your f***ing soul. F***
yeah. The all-time favorite. We call her Devil Girl, by the way. David Knights, the bassist, and Bobby Harrison, the drummer, both with Procol Harum, have birthdays. One, 1945 for the bass player David Knights, and 1943 for Bobby Harrison, drummer, with Procol Harum. Of course, this is their big one from 1967. One of the most successful singles of all time. This single, one of the few. This single sold over 10 million copies. A Whiter Shade of Pale.
James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley, presents Rapid Phones.
Silos in Staten Island, you are up first today on the phones. How are you?
Okay, and I want to thank you for playing that, because I told them the fake news and the liberals want to hide all of the filth in their minds. They wanted to hide the Hunter's laptop. They want to hide the truth about their party. So I'm glad you played it. But this Mandami guy, he's not hiding what he is. And if you go on his website, you can see him. He says that he is going to fund all of the, the people who don't deserve it, like Stacey Abrams. And he's telling you, just like, I don't know if a lot of people in school don't understand, because I hire a lot of young guys. They have no idea about the Hitler Youth.
Well, this guy is, number one, he can't hide. They're trying to retract some of the stuff he said about Israel. They're unable to. This notion that he's going to do communist stores in New York, a network of stores, and he's going to take from profitable stores in order to help fund it, is absurd. Then you have this notion that he wants to, and it's black and white, so to speak. Let's go into the richer, whiter neighborhoods and tax the white guys. That's the position paper. This guy is the perfect Democrat. He is articulating everything the Democrat Party has come to be right now. He is the face of modern Democrats. Now, whether he is electable or not in the general, I don't know. But as long as he is the face of Democrats, we should highly publicize everything that this man thinks. Okay, our number uno in the can. Our number duo coming up. Next hour, by the way, America's Small Caffeinated Mom is going to join us a little bit earlier than she usually does. She usually joins us in the last hour, but she'll be with us in the next hour. Princess Di's coming up later, too. So whatever you do, keep it right here and do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Now at CREW, we have 152 open legal matters against the Trump administration since January 20th. We filed the first one at 12:01 p.m. We want to file the very first lawsuit. I had somebody listening on their iPhone to the swearing in and standing at the GSA to drop a complaint on them about the Trump Hotel. Just compelled by circumstances. And when Trump is ejected, as I believe he will be, then I'll help stitch up some of the damage and I'll go back to book writing.
There you go. All right. Meredith, Norm paints a pretty bleak picture about the current state of things. You're a veteran of the reform field, having worked at Common Cause, the Campaign Legal Center, now at Issue 1. So how does the reform community respond to this moment?
How does the Supreme Court respond to all these outrageous legal actions and district court judges taking it upon themselves to try to rule the executive branch? Well, it wasn't a good week for liberals. That, by the way, was Norm Eisen of the Brookings Institution bragging at the beginning of the term about all the legal actions that they brought. And, of course, their friendly judges, mostly in 5 different districts around the nation, responded with extraordinary injunctions against this administration from doing their business. Came to an end yesterday. A triumphant Supreme Court term for Trump, fueled by emergency rulings, is today's story in the New York Times. Using truncated procedures, the 6-justice conservative majority gave a green light to many of the president's most assertive initiatives. And this is a huge case that is going to reverberate not just for this administration, but for future administrations as well. By the way, that is a double-edged sword. there will be, sadly, at some point in the future, a liberal that takes over the White House again. They will now have a roadmap to how to use executive actions to, and what you know they're going to try to do is reverse many of the things that are taking place now that are finally putting this country on the right track. This is why Congress needs to step up. And Congress needs to codify as much of what is happening now with this administration's initiatives into law that cannot be easily overturned. But the Supreme Court barred judges from swiftly blocking government actions. And of course, the New York Times says, this is Charlie Savage writing, even when they may be illegal. And he says that that's yet another way that the checks on executive authority have eroded. That is not what happened. The judicial overreach has been reined in. That is the more accurate description of what took place. The decision on Friday, yesterday, 6-3, will allow Mr. Trump's executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship to take effect in some parts of the country, even though every court that has looked at the directive has ruled it unconstitutional. Well, some liberal courts have. And this, by the way, is a huge thing. Just because it was decided a century ago doesn't mean it cannot be relitigated. No one until Donald Trump has had the political will to actually look at what we all know was an abused system and say, we have to challenge this. What we're seeing in the administration of Donald Trump is that he is trying to get to, and I will use a term that liberals like to use, the root causes of some of these problems that we are facing. The entire immigration debate has been built on fantasy/falsehoods. The idea that birthright citizenship was supposed to be used in this fashion is laughable. This is never what it was intended to be used as. You can just come to this country, drop a baby, come on vacation, have a baby, and automatically your baby is an American citizen and therefore eligible to suck the American taxpayers dry with benefits. That was never, ever the intent of any of this. Birthright citizenship coming the day the Civil War ended. At the conclusion of the Civil War was intended to stop Democrats from trying to say that the children of the slaves that they held captive and oppressed were not citizens. That was the intent. That's why it was enacted in the first place. It has been abused, and we have seen that abuse grow in recent years. Just like the asylum process. Democrats still talk about, well, these seekers here of asylum are here legally. And they have not been vetted. We never had the infrastructure put in place, especially during the Biden years, to this overflow, this invasion of illegal aliens claiming asylum. And in many cases, we know that it has been abused. Todd Bensman, Center for Immigration Studies, did amazing research during the Biden years. And what he found out was that the United Nations and others were, and by the way, some religious charities, were helping illegal immigrants get past the requirements for entry into the United States by falsely claiming asylum. And the United States government did not have the resources to vet the claims. This is also when Democrats talk about due process. What they are talking about, if we listen to their version of due process, would literally take millions of years collectively, if you look at how long it takes to process immigration claims for one person, if it was stretched out to the max under the way that Democrats would like to see it go, it would literally take millions of years collectively to litigate all of the millions of claims that are being made here with this flood of illegal immigrants. And the Trump administration is not having it. Right now, all this hubbub, by the way, in Los Angeles that is taking place, it is still under 1,000 illegal immigrants that have been apprehended. And the sob stories are everywhere. And some of them, by the way, are genuinely touching. And I'm not going to pretend that they're not. But what is also the fact is that these people, many of the people that are now claiming hardship, knowingly broke the law. And so the consequences may be difficult and they may present difficult stories, but they knowingly broke American law. And our response to American citizens who break the law, whether they come from difficult circumstances or not, the accepted social contract that we have in this country is that, yes, you may have had a difficult life. You may have had difficulties in your life and challenges, but if you knowingly break the law, you still have to face the consequences. And liberals want to make an exception for that when it comes to non-citizens. Problematic. So, this notion that Charles Savage puts out today that the Supreme Court has just faded away or disappeared, another check on Trump's power, is absolutely wrong. The power struggle that was taking place was that individual judges at the district level were exerting power that they never had. They were exerting power beyond their district and making national policy from the bench. What has been eroded, if you will, or called into check is the overreach of the judicial branch. Now, the net impact of that is that the executive branch will be stronger without having to deal with these nuisance injunctions. And that was a matter of politics, and these judges know it. They just wanted to run out the clock, and they want to run out the clock on Donald Trump's second term. Let's tie it up in court in a way that will keep his initiatives in the legal process for as long as we can, hopefully for the entire term of his presidency, and then hope that a Democrat will take over and all of these initiatives will be gone. Well, that was what was just thwarted by the Supreme Court rightly, despite what Ketanji said, Justice Ketanji. And by the way, there are so many stories about the way that she was eviscerated by Amy Coney Barrett. But what the issue was had nothing really to do with an overreach by the executive branch This was all an overreach by the judicial branch, and the Supreme Court rightly put these rogue leftist judges in their place. James Golden, Snerdley. It's the Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222. Going to take some of your calls. In 1959, Bobby Darin, number one on the charts with this one. Neil Sedaka is playing piano on this. James Golden, Snerdley, Saturday Morning Vibe, 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Keep it right here.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Fucking sons of a that think that you're just gonna go and arrest a bunch of protesters because they're out there doing something you're too afraid to do. They're out there fighting for our freedom, and they're out there fighting for our right for free speech, because you, all 2,000 of you National Guardsmen, you brave-ass soldiers, you think you're gonna march in those streets and tell those people to shut the up? That is what you decided to fight for. You chose to defend us against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and you failed. And that's why they're out there on those streets. So who the are you to tell them to shut the up? Why don't you grow a pair, take off your mask, and tell me your name? Because my name is Alex, and I say you.
Yeah, liberals are still hot. Very hot over the immigration deportation raids in Los Angeles. And you're hearing some of the reaction. On this, tomorrow's the anniversary when Rosemary Clooney passed away. One of the big ones. And her nephew, Hollywood actor George Clooney, was one of her pallbearers. Yes! Yes, George Clooney is Rosemary Clooney's nephew.
Nepo baby.
A Nepo baby? Oh, James Golden, Snerdley. Later in this hour, America's Most Caffeinated Mom, Rhonda Schrock, will join us. Right now, I want to head back to the telephones. Let's check in with Eddie in Staten Island, New York. How are you this morning, Eddie?
I'm fine, brother. I mean, James, I tell you, I'm sorry I hadn't called in weeks. I've been very busy. But this whole thing about this Mandani guy has me really ticked off. And I figured out what's going on. The Hispanic and black base is not consistently voting for Democrats anymore. And the reason for controlling supermarkets is to feed the illegal aliens who no longer have money because of the Trump policies and the way Holman is going after them. They're all hiding. And I'm telling you, if they're hungry, look, I'll reach in my pocket and I'll give them money. But I'm not going to let them take the whole store. That's out of the question. I'd like to
now, wait a minute.
history here.
A lot of people that are not in New York, and we have people from all over the country here, don't know exactly what this proposal is that Mondani wants to do. I alluded to it earlier, so let me just spell it out really quickly. Mondani says that he's going to redistribute income from successful private grocery store operations. That's number one. He's going to take money from existing grocery stores that are doing well in New York, and he is going to open government grocery stores, a network of them. These government grocery stores will not have to pay taxes. They will not have to have a lot of the overhead. They're not going to have to pay rent. So I guess he's going to either seize the property or use existing city property to then open up these stores. And then with the cost savings of not having to pay overhead, not having to pay taxes, he's going to offer groceries at a lower price to everybody. In other words, he's going to drive grocery stores out of business by doing a price war at a government store where they have a distinct advantage after taking the money to fund this from existing grocery stores. This is what New Yorkers, in some cases, are voting for. And you say this is all part of a larger pattern, Eddie. So do you think this guy actually has a chance, and is this going to be successful?
Not if we get the word out, because I'll remind you about something for those people who are excited about free food. In 1972, Richard Nixon and the Moscow Accords visited Russia. During that time, we got to see what a Russian supermarket looks like. I'm an expert in the food business and market because I'm there. All of the packages were the same. A lot of it was limited. And you know what happens to you if you disagree with your government? You're not going to get any food. The competition factor has been taken out. That means the low price, you're going to get cheap food. You're going to get outdated food. All the regulations we have that control our food industry is so important for the safety of the food. The supply, varieties.
Eddie, I got to just ask you to hold your thought. Don't go away yet, because I want to just let you wrap this up when we get back. But we got to take a break. James Golden, Snerdley, with you here, Saturday Morning Vibe. 800-848-9222 is how you reach us. Whatever you do, keep it right there. And do not go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network. Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future. Sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's James Golden, a.k.a. Bo Snerdley.
Ladies and gentlemen, Protecting Your Future this week. Let's turn to ABC News. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent was on this week, and he had what in the parlance of the Rush Limbaugh show used to be called a "see, I told you so" moment. And here was that moment.
The reality is there will either be less inventory or things at higher prices or both.
When we were here in March, you said there was going to be big inflation. There hasn't been any inflation. Actually, the inflation numbers are the best in 4 years. So why don't we stop trying to say this could happen and wait and see what does happen?
Boom. And you know what didn't happen? All of the fears that led many of you to panic. Some of you, I shouldn't say many of you, some of you panicked. I heard the wailing, the cries, OMG, my portfolio is in the tank. That was then. Today, the stock market is at an all-time high. And that is in spite of the tariffs that people said would tank it. That is in spite of the threat, the talk of rampant inflation, which has not materialized. That is despite the fear-mongering that we were headed into a major recession, which has not materialized. All of the it's gonna happen, didn't happen. Does that mean one shouldn't be prudent? Of course not. That means that one should always be prudent, but one should also consider the source of many of the news that you get from people who want to see the economy fail and not prosper. And there are many of them. Many of these outlets just like this. Well, there could be, and the Treasury Secretary has it absolutely right when it comes to looking at the way that you invest. Don't use the news media's fear-mongering about what could happen. Because a lot of things could happen. Let's deal with instead what is happening. And what is happening right now is a lot of good news financially. In fact, there was a clip, I don't have it in the roster today, but the head of the European Union's outfit that's looking at the trade deals openly, hey, we want a trade deal with the United States. We're working at it. We want it. Now, things are a little bit dicier with Canada at the moment. They wanted to tax American tech companies. Donald Trump said, nope, and you know what? We're done talking with you right now. So that's up in the air. But overall, the trade situation is doing great. At the press conference that Donald Trump had this week to deal in the post-Supreme Court, he took a question about it, about how the tariffs were going, how the trade meet, and it was absolutely brilliant. That's cut 29, Carlos. Let's just listen to that in terms of, and put that in perspective of all the news and all the fear-mongering that you heard about the tariffs.
Mr. President, a leading global economist just did a 180 and says your tariff plan, you may have outsmarted everybody with it. What is your message?
I love this. I love this question. This is the favorite. This is the best question I've ever been asked, because I've been going through abuse for years on this. Because, as you know, we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars, no inflation whatsoever.
But, Mr. President, what is your message to critics who think your tariff plan will cause a recession?
I think they should go back to business school. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. I mean, we're taking in billions and billions of dollars from China and a lot of other countries.
And Carlos said thank you, Carlos. Carlos found the European woman. Go ahead, let her rip.
Our trade talks with the United States. President Trump and I had a good discussion at the G7 summit in Canada. Back then, we agreed to speed up the work with a clear goal, an agreement before the 9th of July. Today, we received the latest U.S. document for further negotiations. We are assessing it as we speak right now. So our message today is clear. We are ready for a deal. At the same time, we are preparing for the possibility that no satisfactory agreement is reached. This is why we consulted on a rebalancing list, and we will defend the European interest as needed. In short, all options remain on the table.
But they are ready for a deal, and that's the takeaway. We're ready for the deal. So, ladies and gentlemen, protect your future. Listen to media news reporting about the financial world with a great deal of skepticism when they go beyond reporting what is happening right now and start projecting their fantasies about what they hope happens in the future, which usually is nothing more than fear-mongering. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's return to Eddie in Staten Island. I wanted to give you a chance to wrap up on this deal with Mamdani, who, by the way, and please respond to this one too, Eddie, he is openly saying he wants to tax at a higher rate richer, whiter neighborhoods in New York.
Taxing richer and taxing all these people is just going to lead to layoffs, because the costs have to be absorbed somewhere. We are the ones that wind up losing, and most of the people employed by markets are minorities. We have to stop being played for sucker and stop living a life of dependency through the indoctrination of the schools. Self-reliance means you have the ability and the chance to achieve the American dream. Do not give it up to a bunch of people who want to control your life, keep you on the farm as a slave because you don't have the education to overcome. We have been through so much in our history, through civil rights, slavery, even the slavery that began in the Caribbean with the Spanish. To turn back the pages and not achieve. We're not going to do that. My grandmother was proud of me when I graduated high school and college, and I'm not going to stop. And I'm telling all of our people, Spanish and blacks and all other minorities in this city, stop being played for suckers. And I say it in Spanish, no dejen que te tomen de pendejo y zánganos. James, my heart is with you because we have to get the word out. This guy is poison. We have other options that lead to better road and a better life for your children. I love you, man.
I love you too, but let me just say this about that, Eddie. Mamdani is the best representative for today's Democrat Party that there could be. Openly racist, openly classist, with this class warfare nonsense that he's talking about waging, openly communist, with this socialist plan to redistribute income from success and let the government take it over, openly hostile to groups that he doesn't like, openly hostile to Israel. He is the perfect face of the new Democrat Party. And we should not waste the opportunity of his candidacy to explaining to people exactly what the Democrat Party has become. And look at all the people that support this guy, from Letitia James to AOC to now Hochul's trying to hedge on whether she's going to support him or not, but you know she's going to fall in line if indeed he becomes the Democrat front runner. Make this guy the poster child of the Democrat Party. He is today's Democrats. Thank you, Eddie. I appreciate your call so much.
My pleasure.
James Golden, Snerdley. We're going to take a quick break here. When we get back, we're going to return with America's small caffeinated mom, Rhonda Schrock. Whatever you do, don't go away. Carlos, got some Lionel in the house. And what an ominous song. Hello? Is it me you're looking for? Yeah. Tomorrow's the anniversary when there was somebody at the door. Open up! Open up! Open up! And it was Brenda Ritchie, the wife of Lionel Richie. She began to hit the singer and the young woman he was with after she found them in bed together. Brenda Ritchie was eventually released on $5,000 bail, and charges against her were eventually dropped. And their marriage was dropped too. Hello, who's at the door? It's your wife. And who you're doing it to. Or is someone you?
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Why the does a job that pays $16.50 need to have a second round of interviews? This is a receptionist job. I'm 21 years old. I've had five prior work experiences. Just hire me.
Tomorrow's the heavenly birthday of Little Eva. Carole King, Jerry Goffin asked her to record a song they wrote. The rest is history. 1962, The Locomotion went to number one. It's been covered many times before. With us right now, ladies and gentlemen, America's small caffeinated mom, with us a bit early this week. How are you, Rhonda?
Good morning, James. I'm doing great. I'm thrilled to be back with you, and it was really great to hear Carlos's voice in my ear this morning. You have a great team.
Thank you. So, what is on your mind this morning, Rhonda?
Today, I'm going to share a story with you that happened in 2020. No one who lived through that year will ever forget it. As I reflected on it, I thought how there were two viruses that swept the globe in 2020, and one of them was COVID-19, and the other one was fear. It was a year of so much, terror and sickness, but also isolation and loneliness and distancing between human beings. It was so hard on all of us. Well, in the fall of that year, our family was able to travel to another town and meet friends of ours that we had not been able to see for months. And so we were finally in person with them, able to speak with them face to face, and we went for dinner at a Mexican restaurant. And the waiter, I was watching him as he moved around. He was bringing us our chips, and the chips at this restaurant are so good that when he approached with these huge baskets full, I just said impulsively, "Yay!" and I gave a fist pump. And he smiled. He was wearing a mask, and I could see his eyes were smiling, and he said, "My goodness, I've never had anyone show so much excitement about our chips." So anyway, he was serving us, moving around, and I was watching him. I saw that on his one arm he had a tattoo that went up around his bicep. He was a very handsome young man, and something about him just plucked at my heart, and I cannot always tell you why I feel what I feel when I see certain people. It just happens. And so when he came back to our table, I said to him, "Would you do me a favor?" And he said, through his mask, "Sure." And I just said, "Would you pull down your mask and smile at me?" It's just what came to me in the moment. And I could see surprise go across his eyes and his forehead. And he said, "Why?" And so I'm looking him full in the eyes, and I said, "Because you're such a delight. You're doing a good job, and I'd like to see you." There it came. The mask came down, and this brilliant smile went across his face with all the light in the world sitting on his countenance. Well, the mask went back up, but he lingered for a moment to talk to us. And so I just asked him about his mother, because so many times when I'm out in the world and I have these interactions with people, I almost always think about their mothers, and I wonder about them. So I just said to him, "Is your mother still alive?" And he said, "Yes, I just talked to her yesterday. She's a retired school teacher. My father is recovering from surgery." We just had a little exchange. And so I just said to him, "I want you to tell your mom that you're doing a good job." Because as a mother, I know how good that feels when someone compliments one of my kids. For a few moments at a table in a restaurant, there was no COVID, there was no lockdown, there was no isolation, there was just some simple human connection. And this is what came out of his mouth. "This has been a good day." It was just such a wonderful little heartwarming moment. It just made me so happy. The whole rest of the day I felt it. Well, fast forward to a year ago when my teenager came home from school one day, and he said that at lunchtime he had noticed a boy sitting alone in the lunchroom. So he went over to talk to him, and my kid was a sober, troubled fellow when he came home, and he told me about their conversation. He said, "At one point, Mom, I realized I was raising my voice." That was his reaction after this boy told him how some of his fellow students who claimed to be Christians had treated him. And my son said to me, "I was miffed, and I told him not to judge all Christians by that." And then he went quiet for a little bit. And then he said this, "Someone told me just the day before that he's a raging atheist, but he's not." So I just said to him, "It sounds like the telephone game that we used to play." And I just thought, clearly this poor young man had suffered judgment at the hands of others who had not stopped to listen to him, to sit with him as he was there alone at that table, to hear his story. And there were reasons why he struggled with the concept of God. I finally told my son, I have learned by experience that people who have been brutalized or traumatized or just mishandled, a lot of people have just been mishandled by other people, and it's awful. They are often very fragile. That's what I have learned. And so some people cannot accept love easily. It frightens them, and I've learned I have to be very gentle. People like this want to see what you do and who you are before they want to know what you believe. I handed my son a very important key that day, and he was all ears. I saw him receive the truth. I have learned to say to all people who come to me, I accept you like you are. I love you like you are. That is the deep medicine that I have found that will eventually prompt them to ask me, why are you like you are? Why do you have the hope that you have? And then when they ask me, their ears and their hearts are open, and I can tell them the truth. It has been years now that a stream of what I kind affectionately think of as the lost boys have come across my path. Sometimes it's some lost girls, but because I have had a lost boy, my eyes and heart are so attuned to the lost boys, and I saw them again at the big, beautiful, boisterous barn party that we had for the teenager a couple weeks ago when he graduated. A tidal wave of teenagers came through, eating the food and talking and laughing, and I saw two separate lost boys, and I had the blessed opportunity to just stand with them for a few minutes and to look into their faces and speak what they needed to hear. It was wonderful. The wonderful thing to me, James, is that my son is learning also to see them and learning how to share his compassion and his faith. Before we share our beliefs with other people, we must take time to listen to them, to hear about their lives, refuse to assume things about them, and to apply that deep medicine of love and acceptance, no matter how they're living, no matter what we think about how they're living. First, the love, and next, the acceptance. And then their hearts and ears are open to hear the reason for the love and the light that we carry. I so long for all of us to learn that perfect blend of compassion and wisdom and truth and love that will bring so many lost boys and girls into our circle and at our table. That's what I live for.
Wow. As always, Rhonda, so inspirational. The lost one. And you know what? We all go through times where we are lost ourselves.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know what very few people, I don't think I've known anybody that hasn't gone through a period in life where they have felt completely lost dealing with whatever circumstances they have going on in their life.
That's so true. And isn't it wonderful when somebody sees us in our lost condition and approaches us with that deep medicine? Or if you're a parent, it's just as wonderful when someone else sees your lost boy or girl in the world and applies that same medicine to them. It has happened to my formerly lost boy, and I will forever be grateful that someone else saw him and applied that deep medicine. And I used to actually pray very boldly, keep away the judgmental people, keep away the harsh and unloving people who will condemn him. Even though he was doing things he shouldn't do, I very boldly asked God to keep those people away from him because that was the last thing he needed. And God sent people with that love and acceptance, the deep medicine that he needed.
The deep medicine. Rhonda, where can people find your deep medicine and find you?
Well, today's essay is on thedailybs.com, your website, and they can find lots of deep medicine on my website, rhondaschrock.com.
Thank you so much, Rhonda. Coming back, ladies and gentlemen, with Princess Di. Whatever you do, don't go away. Keep it right there. Welcome, my friends. Hour number trio. Wow, it just speeds on by. Well, you know what hour number trio means, and I have been looking forward to this moment all week long. Ever since last Saturday, when we got off the air last Saturday, we had no idea what was going to happen Saturday night. And from it has been a week of intenseness. And where there is a week of high intenseness, there is Her Highness. And
it's time for Radio Royalty with James Golden and America's Princess of Policy, Princess Di.
Yes, the ness of all things good. Her Highness is in the houseness. And I can't wait to see ya. What the scoop is. Princess Diana, this week has been, whoa.
You know, it is just, you mention all the time the feeling of trying to catch the fire hose of news in the Trump era. And this week has been that on steroids. So it's Trumpness plus. And I just wanted to talk with you about this week because as one thing happened, it's easy to forget what happened earlier in the week. So I just wanted to go through, and this isn't even everything, but some of the highlights. And as you mentioned, the United States operation, which was, I call Operation Paul Pelosi, Operation Midnight Hammer.
Oh!
I mean, not to make light of it, because it was, a very important global event that I'm sure opened the eyes of many bad actors around the world that you cannot, FAFO, you cannot fool around, because you will find out Trump, will not restrain American power when necessary and when needed. And so the Israel-Iran conflict was ended when the Iran nukes were obliterated. And I am going to use that word, which has gotten so much criticism from all of the media and all of the commentary. Basically, how dare Trump say that the nukes were obliterated, that we don't know, it probably wasn't much. And I just want to say, if there's any person in the political world or in leadership that ends up being proved right 100% of the time, almost, it is Donald Trump. And if he said the nukes in that one mountain were obliterated, I am going to use that word, because that means they were obliterated. And the fact that the left is making so much effort to argue with it and saying, oh, they're going to reconstitute in 2 weeks, it was not a big deal. I'm telling you, they are worried of how effective that military action was. And so I'm going to say that as the highlight of the week on many highlights. And as you know as well, yesterday there was another peace deal that Donald Trump brokered, Rwanda and Congo, which was extremely important because we are, going to be trading with both these countries now. And they are going to prove very important on the metals and some of the other exports that we will now be able to use. So not only is that a wonderful accomplishment for peace and for the lands that have been seeing so much bloodshed, it is a wonderful thing for world trade as well. The China trade deal was signed. That got so little attention, and this is going to be a public meeting then to codify it. But both sides signed the deal 2 days ago. The stock market had record highs, the gas prices record lows, the Social Security monthly payouts declined for the first time in our lifetime because a lot of the fraud is being stopped. Trump went to NATO and they called him Daddy.
Daddy. Call me Daddy.
They all agreed. Who's your daddy? They all agreed that they will, all those countries will pony up, meet their obligations to 5% of their GDP contribute to their defense. And so that is huge because Trump was laughed at when he first said this in his first term, and he was basically excoriated because they claimed, he wants to eliminate NATO. In fact, this one standard that he is holding them to, he's holding the world to, and his allies. He accomplished it. And so that was huge this week. The Supreme Court smackdown of activist judges, has gotten a lot of attention, and it is critically important. But also what happened at the Supreme Court was Trump can now deport bad guys to third countries. that they were not necessarily born in. So that is going to be a huge additional tool that the Trump administration could use as to where to send a lot of these bad hombres, as he used the name. So the other thing that got very little attention was the sanctions that the Trump administration put on the big three Mexican money launderers. And it is so interesting because we are blocking transactions between three particular Mexican institutions and American banks. They don't have access to our capital. And in that, they were basically, America said a lot of that money from Mexico was going back and forth with China. So I want to quote a sentence from a conservative treehouse who said correctly, China is being hit. The Mexican cartels are being hit. The Mexican government is being hit. The Mexican financial system is being hit. Mexican politicians are being hit. Mexican illegal aliens inside the USA are being hit. Mexican money launderers are being hit. And by extension, all of those who benefit from the funding therein, including the DNC, the CIA, and corrupt U.S. politicians. So that is a very beneath the radar event, which is going to really stop a lot of the under the radar money that has been transferred from China to Mexico, put into fentanyl and other bad drugs coming to America. So that isn't going to get a lot of ink, but I just wanted to point it out that the Trump administration is operating using all the levers of power that they have, and that is why the left is so upset, crying in their cars, talking about the end of, democracy, et cetera, et cetera. But that is not even all of them. I just wanted to mention a few of what happened in 1 week with true American leadership. And as you had mentioned, the Supreme Court ruling on judges is going to have immediate effect. And we can talk about the smackdown by Amy Coney Bryant against Ketanji Brown Jackson, because that is really a girl fight, which is kind of fun.
Well, you open that door. Let's talk about that real quick. Ketanji Brown basically said that the Supreme Court was abrogating, this is the end of justice, pretty much, was her line of rationale. The Supreme Court is abrogating its role here. They are making the president, they are making the president an imperial presidency, and none of that is what actually happened with that ruling. So Amy Coney Bryant, in her decision, had a few words for justice.
I have
Ketanji.
There's one sentence we have to have where I will quote, "We will not dwell." She's writing for the majority opinion. She's writing for the court. And Amy says, "We will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We only observe this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary." And so in legal terms, that is as personal of we're not even going to pay attention to anything you say kind of thing. And, Justice Jackson herself complained in her dissent about legalese and how annoyed she was at having to go through legalese. Now, this is her job, understanding legal terminology, and she clearly didn't demonstrate that. And I think that the majority on the court is really ticked at her for wasting their time and not presenting actual legalese-based legal arguments. And so this was a smackdown. They all signed off on this sentence and a couple of other sentences, which are very personal and very unusual for the court to do. So I am hoping that Justice Jackson will take that rebuke and basically have some look herself in the mirror and maybe change her approach. I doubt it because she's a leftist, but I think that would serve her well for the rest of her term if she would.
Wow. Well, I want you to hold on because there was another big story that happened this week to me. Wasn't covered very much at all. And I want to talk about that and add that to the list when we come back. Princess Di is with us, ladies and gentlemen. 800-848-9222, by the way, is our number. What's up, Carlos?
So, on this day in 1962, the Drifters entered a studio to record the Jerry Goffin, I hope I said that right.
You did.
And Carole King's song, Up on the Roof. It became a major hit in 1963, reaching number 5 on the U.S. pop single charts. Jerry Goffin cited Up on the Roof as his all-time favorite of the lyrics he had written. In the UK, the Drifters version failed to reach top 50, being surpassed by 2 British cover versions sung by, respectively, Julie Grant and Kenny Lynch. The song had its most successful UK incarnation
in a cover song by Robson and Jerome. But you know what, Carlos? This one was the one that everybody remembers here in the United States, the Drifters.
When he says most successful incarnation, like version?
Incarnation.
Version?
Yeah. That's it. James Golden, Snerdley, Princess Di is here. The Drifters taking us. We'll be back. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
James Golden, Snerdley with you here, the Saturday Morning Vibe. The Whispers bring us in. It was announced yesterday that Walter Scott, part of the Whispers, he was the co-founder of the Whispers, along with his brother, his twin brother, Wallace, had passed away. It's sketchy, the information. I think it was Thursday, but it was announced yesterday that Walter Scott of the Whispers had passed away. Whispers, of course, huge. L.A. group. This one was their big one during the disco years. Also, they had Rocksteady, Lady. Seems Like I Gotta Do Wrong, which never got the attention as a song that it deserves. It's just an incredible song about the storyline about a kid who, as he says in the title, seems like he has to do something wrong in order to get noticed. It's a really profound song. Anyway, so condolences to all the fans and the family, of course, of the Scotts. Walter Scott, 81 years old, passed away. Great, great musical legacy with the Whispers. James Golden, Princess Di is here. You mentioned all those stories. There was a presser that was happening, Princess Di, around the same time Donald Trump was giving his beautiful presser, and that presser was overseas. And I just want you to listen to a translation because it wasn't in English.
I deeply respect the current American president. He's traveled a very long and difficult path. There were hardships along the way, on his way to the White House. You know that he survived 2 attempts on his life. He's a very courageous person, that's for sure. As for what he's doing within the country, within the United States, or when it comes to the Middle East and his efforts there to achieve peace, for example, in the Ukraine crisis, we value that a lot. And let me say that publicly again, like I've said before, President Trump, I believe, sincerely wants to achieve peace in Ukraine. Just recently, he said it's more difficult than he had believed before. Well, that's true, and it's to be expected, because it's one thing when you look at something from the outside and it's something different when you actually deal with it. And the same goes for the Middle Eastern matter. Although over there, I think he had much more experience. He was more involved in the Middle East before. But it's difficult there as well, because real life is always difficult. It's more difficult than what you initially believe. But personally, I'm always open to any contacts, to any meetings. And I know that President Trump has said on multiple occasions that we could meet But I personally
and he goes
think
on from there.
This is
That's
something we need to
Vladimir
prepare
Putin.
for.
Right.
Now, of course, the liberals kept with this. I caught myself from saying a word I should never say on radio. But, of course, the Democrats, with their whole Russian collusion thing. But this Putin, it is clear that the respect that he has for Trump is genuine. And the respect of Trump as a world leader. Look at what you just said from the NATO allies. And they are still allies of the United States. So all this talk, the way that the media frames Donald Trump as a world leader is very different from the reality of how leaders around the world talk and express themselves about Donald Trump. And I just wanted to get your comment on that.
Well, absolutely, and I'm so glad you played that. The thing that's interesting about the world stage is that respect has been earned. This is not something that they are responding to Trump's personality or whether they like it or not. They started out, especially in NATO, if you remember some of the video of the German laughing as Trump was speaking to the UN. I mean, this is something that in the beginning there was not that respect, but over time they saw, as many Americans do, that Trump is as good as his word and that he operates from strength. He's different than the people they're used to dealing with, because he has a creative approach. It is not what the conventional wisdom is ever. And it's very interesting because I remember Don Jr. talking during the 2016 campaign about his father's talents at making deals. And he said, you know, I would watch him, and then you would see him do something, and he'd be like, really? Are we going there? When it would be something that sounded harsh. But he said, you just stand back, and he says, I promise you the whole country will see that, because when he operates, it's completely surprising and successful almost every time. And I see that with the trade deals. I see that with the peace deals, because no one else is thinking on the level that Trump is. But you look at the results, and that is what Putin sees. That is what the world's leaders see, that the results speak for themselves. And it is unconventional, his approach, and it is something that causes sometimes his supporters to be aghast at the language he uses or the approach he takes, but it works. And so I think that the whole world is benefiting, and we can see that already, from Trump being a unique leader in human history. And I feel it is an answer to prayer that he is here while we are alive.
Okay, Princess Di. I want you to stay there, Princess Di. We have not even talked about the BBB yet. And the BBB is supposed to be voted on today. Carlos, that would be the big, beautiful bill, yes. So, Princess Di, hang in there, and I got some other sound bites I want you to listen to. James Golden, Snerdley with you here. Saturday Morning Vibe continues. Keep it right here.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
That think that you're just gonna go and arrest a bunch of protesters because they're out there doing something you're too afraid to do. They're out there fighting for our freedom, and they're out there fighting for our right for free speech, because you, all 2,000 of you National Guardsmen, you brave ass soldiers, you think you're gonna march in those streets and tell those people to shut the up? That is what you decided to fight for. You chose to defend us against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and you failed. And that's why they're out there on those streets. So who the are you to tell them to shut the up? Why don't you grow a pair, take off your mask, and tell me your name? Because my name is Alex, and I say you!
Am I the only one that is equally unsettled by seeing an American flag like being waved on private property or like on a car, as I would be if they were waving a Confederate flag? Is that just me? Like, I don't know, unchecked nationalism has always creeped me out as somebody of Jewish heritage, but Yeah, I don't know. Am I the only one?
Yet another insufferable day of being a United States citizen. And if you want to change that for me, let my Cash App know. Anyways, the lower courts here have asked the Supreme Court if we could please only deport illegal immigrants should they have received due process that did, in fact, identify them as illegal with criminal behavior. Because if you didn't know, the United States Constitution actually does give all people on American soil the right to due process. However, if you weren't aware, none of the deportations happening currently are happening under due process, and that's why so many are going on right now. And let me just say, I'm aware other presidents before Trump have done this, and they were all wrong too. So let me just get that one right out. Also, they have been deporting many of the immigrants that they consider illegal on assumption to random third world countries that they're not even from, which is really exciting because not only do they have to completely uproot their lives in a new place, it's a completely new place, not even their home country. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court blocked that one too, so they can deport people without due process wherever they want. Another thing they had mentioned was not allowing any immigrants here on asylum. But you know who is allowed? One single exception, and that would be South Africa. And you know who resides in South Africa?
So we have some extremely terrifying news going on, guys. So ICE is trying to get rid of and eliminate U.S. citizens. Yes, you heard me correctly. U.S. citizens. ICE is targeting people with Hispanic last names, and they are erasing them from the database in order to deport them illegally, without due process, without nobody knowing, because they're no longer in the database. Guys, if this doesn't scare you, if
100,000 immigrants, that's how many people Donald Trump sent to the front line. He didn't even offer them a deal, more like a blackmail bribe. He said, you can either fight for us in this war or you can get sent back. And if you survive in this war, if you do fight, you can get your papers. I feel like this is horrible because you're not even giving them a proper choice. They're not even citizens and you're giving them citizen duties for them to... I don't know, bro. I don't know. I feel like this is so messed up for some reason, no matter what, but people are going to say what they want to say. I don't know where this war is going, what's going to happen, if it's actually going to stop, if the tweets are right or true, but right is right, wrong is wrong. Also, we better hope China don't join. Not just China, but Korea too. Like, I don't know what's going to
happen. Princess Diana. I played all of those for you, Your Highness. Anything? Did you know all that was happening, Princess Diana?
Oh, my goodness. These people are not living happy lives. That is for sure. And, you know, the tangle of complete misinformation is just, you don't even know where to start. I just wanted to, speaking of stop, I'm looking at a poster right now. National March on Washington. This is today, James. Saturday,
right.
June 28th at 1 p.m. Stop the war on Iran.
Stop the war. I saw that earlier. Stop the war.
Stop the war on Iran. I mean, this is what I'm saying. The left is so boggled and whipsawed by, events that they organized this anti-war protest, and the war ended before they could even get to Washington. And so they're, I saw last night they were putting up barricades in front of the White House, and people were wondering, well, what's going on? Well, it's a stop the war on Iran. They are switching out the flags so fast on their protests, from Palestinian to Mexican to Iran, and they really they are just completely boggled, which is a delight.
Okay, now let's talk about BBB. BBB is up for a vote today, supposedly, if things are still holding in the United States Senate. Scott Bessent was on with Maria Bartiromo. That's 13, Carlos. And this is what Scott Bessent had to say about it, Treasury Secretary.
The one big, beautiful bill, it is the continuation of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Job Act. We're going to bring back full expensing, which is new, which is really going to provide great impetus to the economy. But it's also going to include President Trump's campaign promises of no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, reduced taxes on seniors, and deductibility of American-made cars. So, it's something in there for everyone. And also there's border security in there. We are going to fix the FAA. So, this is a tremendous bill, and I am confident that everyone working together, Leader Thune, Speaker Johnson, with President Trump's assistants, have been able to move narrow majorities forward, and I think we're going to be able to bring this home. The president will be signing the bill on July 4th.
Will he, in your estimation, will he, Your Highness?
Absolutely. No question in my mind. Because, as you know, has happened with all of the other difficult negotiations with Congress, both the House and the Senate, J.D. Vance is involved. And this has been one of Trump's secret weapons. It's all under the radar. It's all behind the scenes. And he has been able to marshal through all of Trump's agenda through Congress, both houses. And so he is one of the point people, and I have no doubt that this is going to happen. Now, you have the whack-a-mole that always happens where one or two senators and House members pop up on the media, I'm a no, I can't vote for this. And so then there are deals made. It's an ugly process, but this is how it always works, where there's horse trading going on to buy off and see what people want in order to get the vote, and it's going to happen. And I really haven't been paying much attention to the ins and the outs and the commentary at people talking about the various races and various all of the political analytics, and because I knew it was going to happen. People say, well, the math doesn't work out. There are too few votes from the Freedom Caucus. But I've seen how this system has worked before with J.D. As point person, and I have no doubt it's going to happen. Since Trump basically went out there on a limb and said he's going to sign on July 4th, I think that's, he take it to the bank.
I refused, by the way, to get all upset and demand that the parliamentarian, I know she was a Harry Reid appointee, but I wasn't going to take that bait. I'll fire her. In the past, she's ruled against Democrats. The parliamentarians, by the way, the Senate can ignore them if they choose to. And what they always do is when they point out a problem, they just go back and they rewrite it in a different way that can get past whatever the objection is on the arcane, and they are some of the most trying to get through what the Byrd rule really is, Diana, takes almost an encyclopedic look at arcaneness. Right. It is ridiculous. Right. So even trying to understand the full rule is crazy. But I don't get it. We're going to take a quick break right here, ladies and gentlemen. Princess Di, stick around. You and I are going to take some calls together, and then we're going to just have some fun. I got maybe one or two other sound bites for you, too. So hang in there. James Golden, Snerdley. Oh, this is an incredible week. Westchester Cathedral. I haven't heard this in ages, Carlos. I'm not kidding. Years since I heard this song. The reason we're playing it, born tomorrow, in 1940, June 29th, 1940, Alan Klein, singer, songwriter, musician. 1966, went on tour as the leader of the vocalist of the New Vaudeville Band. This was, believe it or not, a #1 hit in 1966. Times are so different. Westchester Cathedral. Winchester, Westchester. Thinking about the New York, yeah, same difference. We'll be right. Don't go away.
The James Golden Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network. The James Golden Show, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Continue. The LA Tenants Union is calling for an eviction moratorium. They say thousands of immigrants will be unable to pay their bills come July 1st because avoiding detainment is taking priority over going to work.
This militarization of our community, this occupation of our community, this terrorizing of our communities have closed down businesses, have taken away street vendors, have separated families, and then people cannot pay their rent. They have barely the minimum to survive. We need the city to put a rent freeze. We need the city to protect tenants that are going to be suffering this 1st of July when they're going to be receiving 3-day notices because they cannot pay their rent.
The union is also calling for a citywide day of action and organization on July the 1st.
James Golden. Snerdley, who's this?
This is Rihanna.
Oh, my.
Together with Eminem.
Okay, thank you for that, Carl. Eminem, actually, there's a musical reference for Eminem. This is the anniversary, I think, of the day his mama sued him. Because he said his mama defamed. His mama said that Eminem defamed her because he put a line on his record about she smoked more dope than he did or something like that. Yeah, pop culture. Princess Di is with us. Princess, let's take some calls. Mark in New York, you're on with Snerdley, and you're on with... Whoa. We said Bob we were going to first. Mark, stay there. Bob in New Jersey, you're on with Princess Di and with Snerdley.
James, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Fine.
Well, my
what's on your mind this morning?
To turn on his leaf, his weed whacker or whatever, but I apologize. I'm going to the front of the house. I'm once again in Long Branch. I called you last Saturday. I mean, the laws are the laws. And we spoke about this last Saturday as far as you felt that Reagan made a mistake. You know, that he naturalized 20 million, whatever. Put that aside. The fact remains that we have this polarization of two parties, and nobody solved the problem as far as the delicate idiosyncrasies of what is it going to take to be naturalized? I mean, like 5 years, 10 years, whatever.
So what you're saying, let me see if I can cut this just in the interest of time only, Bob. What you believe is that people should have a pathway to citizenship. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. A finite pathway, something that makes sense, a tangible, finite pathway. Instead of leaving it in limbo, the donkey and the elephant beating everybody up in the middle, because there is such thing as a middle class. All of our backgrounds, you know, my family was Italian, Slovak, Polish. There were people Irish came here. They got beat up as far as cheap labor. It's a tangible fact. And as far as like I adhere to what you're talking about in the laws are the laws. All right, there's no dispute there. Okay, and I would agree that it seems like kind of like an invasion. But we have red states, blue states. We have to somehow come to a middle point, a compromise. There has to be some kind of finite, tangible solution.
Okay, Bob, thank you. It's a great question. And I'm going to turn that great question over to Her Highness, the Princess of Policy. It's a policy question. Princess, there should be a pathway to citizenship.
And there is a legal way to become a U.S. citizen, and that is the enforcement of the law is the only thing that our country has been calling for and voting for decades. And so I just want to say, even in the description of the question, there seems to be a not distinction between immigration and illegal immigration. And the legal method is the only way a country can survive. It's like I always say, James, it's the difference between shopping and shoplifting. The left constantly forgets to say illegal immigration when they're talking about. They just say migrants or they say immigration, and they do not specify what we've been criticizing and talking about and saying is a problem, and it is an existential problem, is illegal immigration. And so the answer is enforce the law.
I like that. Illegal shopping. Let's go illegal shopping today. That is really classic. Okay, great. Mike in Long Island, you are up next. How are you, Mike? Mike?
Yes.
Hey,
Bo. Hey, Princess Di. I just wanted to comment a little bit that, we have had quite a week, and we have had quite a busy day yesterday. But we got more coming down the pipeline. I mean, in October, when the decision comes down about birthright citizenship, I'm looking forward to J.D. Vance's proposals for housing and expanding housing. And just in general, all of these promises that are on the way. And I just really appreciate that, we've had quite a week. Yeah, we've had quite a day. We get to say that for another 3.5 years.
Go ahead, Princess.
I totally agree. I mean, it's just the best is yet to come, as Trump always says. And this is going to be such a wonderful thing. Even the people who are upset now are going to benefit from it. It is a wonderful thing for our country and a wonderful thing for our world. We will have the ability to reclaim the American dream. And for young people who have really been cheated out of it, that is coming back. And I feel such an answer to prayer on that.
Thank you so much, Lisa in Hawaii. Lisa, welcome. How are you in the great state of Hawaii, the great blue state of Hawaii?
The great blue state, exactly. The Democrats keep getting elected here, and they don't solve any of the problems that they say they're going to solve, as usual. But anyway, I just wanted to commend you greatly. I think you pulled the best imitation of Rush with your article on the new Confederacy, because that is exactly what is going on in this country. And I think it's brilliant. I think you need to use that phrase more often in your show, because that's exactly what's happening. And if Rush were here, I think he would use it every day as well. But I thank Princess Di for actually editing it. I'm sure she probably did a little bit of tweaking on it, but that was
Princess Di is amazing editor. Princess Di was the editrix of the Limbaugh letter from issue number 1 until the final issue.
An honor. I totally agree with your caller that this piece needs to go everywhere, and I am hoping that you can. Did you pin it on your X account, James? Because that really.
Okay, I will. Well, I mean, but look, it is the truth.
Analysis. It is just an unanswerable for the left. It is so brilliant. It needs to be universal. It needs to be seen by Trump.
Oh, well, we had another person that was there. It's an NBC hostette, and I don't even know who she is. I looked for about a half an hour on the website to find this NBC hostette, and she's not important enough, I guess, to them that she even ranks putting the who she is. Cut 11. But this is what the MSNBC hostette said just this week.
You can't be calm about this. I'm a black man in America. The reason why heart disease... I'm white, I can't comment. Listen to what I'm saying. The reason why heart disease...
No. That's what's his face. That's what's the guy. I wanted that NBC hostette talking about, and we're running out of time now. I think it's cut 11. Nobody here to clean your plate. Anyway, this goes in addition to everything that we've heard from the Democrats. Oh, we must have illegal immigrants because they pick the fruits and vegetables. You had the Vermont representative who said that we need immigrants in this country because nobody will be here to, and I'm sorry for the quote, but this is what she said, wipe our asses. And then you had this one.
Paul, you first. I mean, because Molly mentions those people that are the farm workers, certainly of the ag industry that's being affected. You've got hospitality industry, going to a restaurant even. I mean, you may not have people being able to clear your place, move so quickly, the food being served. Yeah. The people aren't going to like that.
So if we actually do this and follow the law, we won't have people to clean our plates, Princess Di. The way these people talk about immigrants is just amazing to me.
It is so condescending and I think racist. And really, they are looking for a servant class, just as the old Confederacy did.
Yep. I need a mint julep. That was back in the Hillary days. Remember? I want a mint julep. It's the same thing. Democrats haven't changed. Oh, Princess Di, let me just in on that note. So, big, beautiful bill is going to pass. We've had a great week at the Supreme Court. The left, of course, is not going to go away with their nonsense, and they will continue. Do you see any point, we got less than a minute, do you see any point where the liberals actually admit defeat?
No, but there will be fewer and fewer of them. I mean, they have had their violent shock troops. Now that they're getting arrested, they have had their activist judges, and now they are being curtailed. They've had their corrupt money laundering, USAID and Act Blue are being shut down, and they have had their narrative, which is being countermanded. So their tools are leaving, and there are fewer and fewer of them, and America rejoices.
Thank you for spending the whole hour, Princess Di. This has been great. I appreciate you. Love you. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, that's it, folks. Wow, that 3 hours went quick. We got to go. May God bless, protect each and every single one of you, your families, and your loved ones. Until next time, I bid you adieu. Bye.
Thanks for listening to The James Golden Show. You can hear The James Golden Show Saturday mornings at 7. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?
77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.